Hello, hello. Thank you for joining us this evening. We're going to give everybody a few minutes to enter the room, and then we'll get started. We have a lot of exciting information to share tonight. We really appreciate the time you've dedicated to be with us, and we hope to bring just as exciting information back to you within the hour that we have to spend together. But it does look like we're still adding people, so we'll give it just another minute or two, and then we'll get started. I would like to introduce you to our, Stephanie's got them listed as contributors, but they're more like your friends. These are your peers that are out here that we have, I think Stephanie personally wrangled them all in to come in and talk about compacts tonight. They had all had passionate conversations about it and have each worked diligently to bring the information to you. So to our contributors, our presenters this evening, they will introduce themselves as they present on their topics. So thank you all for being here. We really appreciate it. How tonight will work is we have 7 panelists presenting this evening, each of them serving this profession in a multitude of roles. They will introduce themselves, as I mentioned, as they go through their topics. So to begin with, our contributor numero uno would be Miss Pat Connolly-Atkins. And Pat, you've got a few more details to share, and then jumping right into that number one question we got through the registration event. So Pat, you want to take over?
Sure. Hi, I'm Pat Connolly-Atkins. I'm a senior advisor to CWC. I've been on the board and former chairman of the ADAX Dental Hygiene Exam Committee. And I've been around a long, long time. But tonight, tonight is meant to be an introduction for you for compacts. We want to talk about how they're structured, how they work, and how the license process may change because of contracts. And we know our audience comes from varying different backgrounds. As far as your knowledge about contracts, compacts, some of you know nothing. Some of you have been on state boards and have been negotiating and maybe even been legislatively active about compacts. For others, it's your first time. That's great. I think with that type of a mixed audience, we're going to get some good questions. We're going to get some good input from everybody. But before we get any further, what I want everybody to be clear on and understand is tonight's discussion is in no way a discussion about in opposition to state compacts, whether we should have them, whether we shouldn't. That horse has already left the barn. We are going to have compacts, and we do believe that pathways to ease portability is important. So that is not what we're here tonight. What we're here tonight for is just for you to understand what compacts are and to talk about the 2 compacts that are on the table, and to be able to get information to compare and contrast them and make decisions. So we want you to understand compacts. And what is it? What is a compact? We throw the word around. A compact is an agreement. It's an agreement. Here we're talking about states between 2 states. All right, let me back up and say, let's finish this, what we're going to do tonight. So we're going to go through compacts. We want you to understand what they are, what their benefits may be, and what the potential dangers are and a threat to a profession if they are not done right. We're going to answer your questions, hopefully all of your questions, and provide you the tools. We're going to give you information about the 2 proposed dental hygiene compacts, so that you can read through and you can decide for yourself. But we're going to try to be very convincing as to the benefits to the public and to the practitioners for the AADB compact. We want to inspire you to get involved. Kimber's going to talk about this at the end. Consider tonight a call for action. We really need dental hygiene voice, a dental hygiene part of discussions. We see things that other people don't see. And we as a profession tend to be in a position to have the greater risk for being left out as the profession possibly evolved. That's going to be covered really well by one of our panelists. So this is what we hope to do tonight. We have an hour to do it, so we're going to be doing it quickly. So let's just start off with, what is a compact? when we talk about compacts, we're talking about an interstate compact. So by its name, we know that it's an agreement between at least two states. But what's really interesting about it, and I didn't know this when I first started about looking into compacts, that it is constitutionally authorized. So this isn't just an agreement that we're sitting around and Maine is going to talk to New Hampshire. This is something that is provided in the Constitution that is authorized legislatively, and it actually goes to say that Congress needs to approve it, as do your state legislatures, and it is legally binding. So it can be between two states and multiple states. Historically, they were for border disputes, sharing natural resources, and I think one of the things that you can keep in the back of your mind is administrative compacts. Think about driver's license. You get one driver's license and there are agreements between states and amongst states so that you can take that license and go into other states, and you must follow their laws and whatever. So keep that in the back of your mind for the simplicity of what a compact is. Let's talk a minute about licensure, because what we're talking about is a licensure compact. A licensure, for those of you that have been on boards and all of us who examine, we're part of that licensure process. And it's all about protecting the public and upholding standards. And that's our concern. We want to make sure that whatever compact is adopted does these things. It protects the public and it keeps the standards. I want to say that over and over and over again and never forget that. That authority is given to state boards, and we don't want that authority taken away from state boards. Through that process, the education, the training, the competence, all of that is there. So let's make sure that we keep that as we go ahead and look at the licensure process with a compact influence. So what would be a licensure compact? They're relatively new. They don't go back to the 1700s like other compacts do. The first one was about 2016, and it served a purpose. What it was is to provide portability, and mostly because it was in medicine and mostly because of telemedicine. We needed people to be able to practice in other states. A big push was the military spouses. A federal law has passed, so that isn't a concern anymore. But that's where initially it had come from. So licensure compacts are about portability. They are about licensure. But when we think of licensure, it's just not that piece of paper. It's all those other responsibilities that go along with licensure. And one thing to also remember is this, whatever is established will be a government agency. So it isn't just an agreement. It isn't just a cordial agreement between two states. It is a new compact will be a new government agency. There are existing licensure compacts that are successful. And what I want you to look at is on the right-hand column is these healthcare, and there are many, many more. But these particular ones have picked out because when you look at who was involved in the development of it, it's all been their state medical boards. It hasn't been so much, at least in the professional association or an interested committee or whatever. These are the people that put these licensure compacts together in these medical fields were the medical boards, those who are the state regulatory agency for licensure. And that's what we would like to see in dentistry. So tonight, we're talking about the two proposed dental licensure compacts that are here. The Council on State Government has one. They've worked with ADA and ADHA, and their stakeholders it's called the Dentist and Dental Hygienist Licensure Compact. And I struggled to get the words out, but it's newly developed. It's based on the newly developed cosmetology compact. It isn't based on the medical board. It isn't based on other health professions. It's on cosmetology. AADB is the second that has offered a compact in response to the Council on State Government compact that just seemed to be lacking in so many ways. So tonight you're going to be hearing about both. We want you to read them both. We want you to feel comfortable being able to compare and contrast. You'll be getting a whole lot more information from the presenters, and Kimber will be giving you more information at the end on how to get more information. But Consider this a call to action. Compacts are happening now. It's not something that's going to be in the future. It's happening now. 3 states have already adopted them. So we hope you share our enthusiasm. We hope you want to become involved. We need we need the voice of dental hygiene.
Thank you, Pat, so much. I'm going to move now to Carrie Friel. There are a lot of educators on this call. I can see them as they signed in through the chat. So I know what you're going to bring to the table is very interesting to them. So Carrie, with that, I'll let you take it away.
Thanks, Shana. Hi, everyone. As Shana mentioned, my name is Carrie Friel, and I've been a faculty member at the Community College of Rhode Island since about 1999. As a dental hygiene educator and CWC examiner, I wanted to give you my perspective as an educator on the CSG Compact. In Section 3, regarding state participation in the compact, numbers 7 and 9 were particularly alarming to me when I first read them. Number 7 is referring to the Dental Hygiene National Board, or another exam accepted by commission rule. We'll talk a little bit about what commission rule is later on. Number 9 speaks to applicants having graduated from an education program accredited by the Commission on Dental Accreditation, or, there's that word again, another accrediting agency. CODA accreditation is a peer review process that determines whether dental education programs meet certain quality education standards. The Dental Hygiene National Board exam assists dental boards in evaluating the qualification of dental hygienists for licensure. Because of the dental workforce shortages surrounding the dental hygiene profession, my worry regarding these two issues is the possibility of diluting or diminishing educational standards and licensure requirements to get more hygienists in the workforce faster. I was happy to see that my two big concerns, I had a lot of concerns, but my two big concerns were addressed with the AADB Compact. Here in Section 3 of definitions, it is clearly defined. It's not an or. Dental hygienist means any person who graduated from a CODA approved program. Number 2, it references the ADEX clinical exam requirement. And number 3, successfully passed the Dental Hygiene National Board written exam administered by the Joint Commission. For me, not having clear language in rules defining educational and licensure requirements is just too risky. This is something that we have to educate others about. They have to understand what's at stake here.
Harry, you mentioned the educational standards, right? And I go back to the definitions of Section 3 for the AADB. Mm-hmm. Can you give me a little bit more detail about what that means to you? What is the educational standard that you're looking for?
Sure. As a dental hygiene educator, there are 6 CODA accreditation standards that dental hygiene programs must meet. These standards help to promote and monitor both the quality and also the improvement of dental hygiene education programs. As I mentioned, there are 6 standards. I don't know if I can pull them off the top of my head, but institutional effectiveness, education program is a large component of it, administration, faculty, and staff, support services of the program in college, health and safety is a big one, and also patient care.
Well, there you go. You just got all 6.
I guess I did. Thanks.
You're welcome. Great job. Thank you for that clear information, really about where that stands from an educational standard perspective. Leanne Haney, I know I was joking earlier, but you are really going to give us some exciting information on the discipline process. I find every time that you speak about this, I'm always engaged. So can you take us down that discipline process between the 2 compacts that are currently out there?
I sure will. Thank you, Shana, and thanks, Carrie. Good evening. I'm Leanne Haney, and I was the New Hampshire Dental Board investigator for 35 years. When I read the proposed CSG Compact, I saw a lot of red flags, particularly in Section 6, which would be adverse actions. While New Hampshire is not really a hotbed of criminal activity, there were many complaints and subsequent investigations for drug, alcohol, physical abuse, fraud, and many egregious infection control violations. I would like to highlight a few of those concerns in the GSE Compact for your consideration. Can I draw your attention to this graph? This was a slide that was presented by the CSG government, highlighting the benefits of their compact as compared to AADB's. On the left, in the third box from the top, you will see that they have no restrictions based on criminal activity. Background check is required, but licensure decisions are left to the states. Let's pause here because this is significant. While the CSG Compact, dentists and dental hygienists will not have an individual license in each state. They will be granted a privilege to practice in participating compact states. But again, they will not have a license in that state. They will not be looking at any history of criminal history, and we will talk a bit more about that in another slide. So for those of you on dental boards, you know that in order for any disciplinary action to be taken by state boards, the dentist or dental hygienist must have a license to practice in your state. You cannot impose sanctions or disciplinary action if there is no license. To the right, you will see that the AADB states that we have a ban on anyone who has ever had their license disciplined other than CE violations or been convicted of any crime, regardless of the offense. We are not banning anyone. That is just their words, just an individual that has a history of discipline as outlined here. I want to add here that this is in direct alignment with what the medical and nursing requirements are for their compact. It's important to note that dentists and dental hygienists that may not meet the AADB criteria can still apply by the standard application process to the state. They are just not eligible for the compact privilege. This is why it is called a compact privilege and not a compact right. Matt Schaefer, the deputy director of the CSG, stated that public policy is moving away. Shana, can you just, Stephanie, can you advance that? Thank you. Matt Schaefer, who is the deputy director for the CSG, stated that public policy is moving away from these types of punitive bans, and states are moving away from good moral character clauses. Good moral character is defined as an honest person that obeys the law and does not have serious criminal issues in their past. This seems to be in direct opposition to our ADA and ADHA code of ethics. He also states that states have to trust each other. We know that standards vary among jurisdictions, and if state dental board allows for licensure for dentist or dental hygienist that has a criminal history, then that individual would be eligible for a compact privilege, and they'd be allowed to practice in states that are participating within the compact. One other important point, there are states that do allow for criminal histories, even sex offenders. Their rationale is that that offense was unrelated to providing dental care. The AADB position on discipline is straightforward. It is not subject to interpretation and works to the highest standard in public protection. And if you could just advance that. Thank you. And we work and are holding our registrants up to the highest standard in public protection. Let's take a look at the next slide and see what the CSG Compact does not consider an adverse action. We will start with what they will reprimand. So they are not considering an adverse action by the CSG, a reprimand, a censure, a probation, a dismissal, or formal proceedings that are closed because a provider has surrendered a license or left the jurisdiction. They will also not consider an adverse action the loss of ability to apply or renew a license by voluntary surrender or any negative action by a state licensing board that is publicly available. An example of that would be a DEA surrender. So why are they creating all of these areas that are subject to interpretation? During all of the settlement agreements that I've been a part of, the very first thing that all defense attorneys ask for is they do not want the disciplinary action or the sanctions reported on the National Provider Database. The CSG has stated that they will not be using the NPDB, but will be developing their own repository. Further muddying the waters, the GSC states that participating states shall that's an important word, shall share any significant investigative information, litigation, or compliance materials. In the law, the word shall means may. In settlement agreements and imposing requirements, the use of the word must should be used. Shall is ambiguous and it is no longer recognized in legal contracts. This would allow discipline to go unreported. It would allow the CSG to determine what would be filed in their reporting database and allow those bad actors the ability to move freely from participating state to state. This is what the NPDB was created for, public protection. The AADB will be using both their AADB repository and the NPD prior to granting our compact privilege status. I think we can all agree that portability is a great thing, but it is not above all else. It is public protection that it is above all else. So you have the ability to decide what the future of dentistry, dental hygiene, and public protection will look like. Thank you very much.
Leanne, can you cover real quick? You said it, and I think it's important to be heard again, is that the AADB compact is following the medical and nursing compacts as they are constructed and not looking to lessen a standard within the profession.
That's correct. Unfortunately, their compact is based on the cosmetology compact. Ours is based on medical and nursing, and they use the National Provider Reporting Database. And yes, you're correct.
And then the last question I'm going to follow up on is that, the rumor is that the AADB compact will ban an applicant for licensure. I know you covered it, but do you mind repeating that one more time? That is actually not a true statement.
You're right. We are not banning anyone, just anyone that has any criminal history. They certainly will be allowed to apply to other states just as they would through a normal application process. They just wouldn't be allowed to have the privilege of the compact.
Perfect. I think privilege is key word here because it is an extreme privilege to be able to participate in what the AADB has put together.
You're right. And Shana, they even said that the CSG said that the National Provider Database that we all use was patchy and inconsistent.
Yes. And can you quickly it was asked, Kimber answered it, but can you tell us what CSG stands for?
Are you asking me, Shana?
Yeah. What the Council of State Governments. CSG is the acronym for Council of State Governments.
Right. And the NPDB is the National Provider Database that medical and nursing and doctors use as well, and what we're using.
And we would just like to clarify, Shana, that CSG, it's a non-governmental agency, and that will matter when we get to some future slides here.
Thanks, Kimber. Thank you, Shana.
Thanks, Leanne. So, Christy Jo, you've got a lot of topics that build right on top of what Leanne has just presented, particularly about uniform standards. Again, back to that medical and nursing compact that this is, the AADB has developed a compact to be similar. So, Christy Jo, you want to take over, introduce yourself, and take us down the uniform standards process?
Absolutely. So my name is Christy Jo Fogarty. I'm a current examiner. And I'm also the previous president of the Minnesota Board of Dentistry. And I'm actually going to take us back for just a second to what Pat talked about at the very beginning. When I was the president of the board, one of the things that we were looking very much at with the local for our 5-state area was compacts. I've been a long supporter of compacts. I've been working towards a compact. This was long before there were any kind of national compact options for us. So everyone on this call is very supportive of compacts, and I have been personally for a long time. And one of the reasons for me selfishly a little bit was kind of opening up the access to care. But also with that board mind and that board hat on, every time I was reading through both of these compacts, I had that protect the public. So kind of harkening back to what Pat said. And I'm going to start by dovetailing a little bit on what Carrie said and go back to that section 3, number 8, when they talked about they have to have graduated, licensee applicants have to have graduated from a CODA accredited school, or, and there's that big or word, another accrediting agency recognized by the Department of Education. And this wasn't an accident, this language in there. They talk about that they very deliberately chose that language. And they discussed one of the reasons was they wanted to keep some flexibility in there. And they also were worried, what if CODA ever changed its name? But really, that change could have been done and easily addressed by including language about successive organizations. It's done all the time in legislation. And really take that ambiguity out of it and make sure that we had that CODA accreditation. So it's going to leave states dependent on whatever the Department of Education deems as a quality accrediting organization, and would give the states very little voice in that. It would have been much better to keep it cleaner, and then if something had changed, to be able to address that. But I actually had even more concerns when you dig into the same section, but number 9. And this discusses that for anyone to join the compact, they had to have had a clinical assessment. But if you go back to the definition of a clinical assessment, I think you can forward that one more, and it'll actually show what the language is.
She's coming, Christy Jo.
That's okay. We're right here. An examination or process that requires a licensure as a dentist or a dental hygienist that is applicable for evidence of clinical competency in dentistry or dental hygiene. So many of us on this call, and so many of us are educators, have been examiners, and we know how important that clinical assessment is. This language does not require any hand skills for licensure. It doesn't even require any type of a specific exam. They could have a dentist watch a hygienist and deem that they've had a clinical assessment that they are competent to practice hygiene. It really can mean anything. And again, that ambiguity and that vagueness in the language matters. When you're looking at legislation, and trust me, I have worked on many, many pieces of legislation in the state of Minnesota, words matter. And putting in lots and lots of options creates lots and lots of chaos, and it creates all kinds of problems when you overanalyze it that way. So when I looked at that compact, I was very concerned about that. I think it's really important that we have the psychomotor skills tested. It's very important to make sure you have quality, safe. Again, we're going back to that public safety piece, practitioners. And when I looked at the AADB, they really kept their compact language direct and simple, which leaves out ambiguity. There's no shalls in there. And it's very simple for them. They require that anyone eligible for compact licensure has graduated from a CODA accredited school. That's a full stop. That's it. CODA accredited school. If for some reason CODA changes their language later, I'm sure they will go back and address that and change it. But it doesn't have any ambiguity. That's what the standard is. Compact licensees also must have practiced for more than 5 years and passed the American Board of Dental Examiners psychomotor licensure examination. In other words, they have to have hand skills and passed and been successfully evaluated on those hand skills to be able to get licensure in that compact. So for me, simplicity and straightforwardness actually makes their legislation much, much clearer and easier to move forward with.
So Christy Jo, I'm gonna go just to this slide. What you're looking at here, what we're seeing is we've got the CSG compact in the top, and then the AADB compact that you were saying is clear, concise, very definitive of what is required to have that privilege compact license. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Well, I think that's perfect. You know, the other person who speaks a lot about, as I've said, clinical assessment became like, what does that mean when COVID hit? What's a clinical exam, right? That kind of all became a hodgepodge of what does that mean? Dr. Champagne, is there any additional definition you want to provide for what that clinical assessment examination or process, that's the way it's written?
Well, thank you, Shana. Actually, the definition that Christy Jo showed, I think, is critical, and her reference to statutes, of course, is critical. Words are everything in statute. Everyone who's sat on a dental board knows one of your responsibilities is to interpret the statute. We also know statutory construction principles say that rules and regulations can't be more restrictive than statute. And when there is discretion provided, and gives a process. So, for example, when Carrie talked about the Joint Commission, it said that they could recognize another exam authorized by commission rule. So it's one of the few things that the commission can has the discretion to pass a rule and recognize another exam. For example, when she talked about CODA, though, that was not the case because the Department of Education was given the authority to recognize any accredited agency. But the clinical assessment definition, if you read it carefully, the words say that there's no examination requirement whatsoever. It means an examination or any process that any state requires for licensure as a dentist or dental hygienist that provides evidence of clinical competence in dentistry. And that is undefined. It does not give the commission rules authority to define what that is. In fact, the rulemaking authority is on operation of the compact. But in any event, this is so open-ended, as Christy Jo talked about, it could be anything. And that's a significant issue. I think it's especially a significant issue when you think about what Pat referred to with workforce issues, always being blamed on the dental hygiene community and in trying to increase those numbers. So the reality is there is no standard. And why is that significant? As Leanne talked about, the AADB modeled after medicine and nursing. If you look at the preamble in both of those compacts, the nursing says it's clearest is that a nurse who meets a uniform set of standards should be able to practice in all eligible states, because the idea of both the medical and nursing compact was to find the highest common denominator and assure each member state that these people had essentially pristine records. You can focus your attention and resources on the other people who might apply through the direct pathway that Leanne talked about.
Thank you, Dr. Champagne. Now, I know you all as listeners have probably two questions. One, how much is this going to cost? And who is this commission we keep talking about? So let's go ahead and Laura, if I'd like to go first to you, your position on the board of the AADB is very important, but can you go over kind of what we're looking at from a fees perspective, how that will work? How, if you're on the state board, this is important for you to hear. If you're looking to benefit from a compact and that privilege license, it's also important to hear.
Very true, Shana. Thank you. Like Shana said, my name is Laura Rishu. I'm a past board member or dental hygiene board member for Mississippi. I'm also the past dental hygiene board member for AADB. So let's talk about the cost. Start with, are there any fiscal impacts to states and dental boards? With the AADB compact, no. With the CSG compact, yes, there are unknown yearly charges. So we'll start with the AADB compact. With the AADB compact, there are no fees to states. The AADB will not charge jurisdictions to become member states. Jurisdictions that choose to participate and become compact member states do not incur cost for any administrative, membership, or participatory fees of any kind. Fees are paid by the dentist or dental hygienist utilizing the compact expedited licensure process. All costs associated with the AADB compact are the responsibility of the professionals who wish to have compact privileges. So moving on to this slide, I would like y'all to notice under the AADB compact, Section 8, fees and military waivers. Part A states the AADB Compact Commission is authorized to develop rules regarding fees and compact licensees' use of the repository and other provisions as determined by the AADB Compact Commission. And on Part C and D of the same section, it notes that active duty military members and their spouses are exempt from fees. I would also at this time like to give a little shout out to any military members that may be on the call or their spouses and tell you that we at AADB thank you for your service. So now we'll go on to the CSG compact. For this, I'm not going to interpret or use my words. I'm just going to read what they have. The CSG compact clearly states in Section 7, Part E, financing of the Commission, number 3, the Commission may levy and collect an annual assessment from each participating state and impose fees on licensees of participating states when a compact privilege is granted to cover the cost of the operations and the activities of the Commission and its staff, which must be in a total amount sufficient to cover its annual budget as approved each fiscal year, for which sufficient revenue is not provided by other sources. There's also on the CSG compact in Section 7, Part C, number 14, 15, and 17, the Commission shall have the following powers to lease, purchase, retain, own, hold, improve, or use any property, real, personal, or mixed, in any undivided interest therein, sell, covey, mortgage, pledge, lease, exchange, abandon, or otherwise dispose of any property, real, personal, or mixed, and borrow money. So pretty much in summary, the CSG compact, there are fees of an undetermined amount that states will have to pay just to participate. And the costs to obtain the CSG compact privilege are also undetermined at this time. These unknown yearly charges are an additional financial burden that many states and boards cannot tolerate. AADB understands this fiscal impact on the states and designed our compact so the fees to cover expenses are not borne by the states or the dental boards, but by the compact licensee.
Well, you stole the only question I had, Laura. That was it. And I interrupted you. I'm sorry. Did you
no, I was going to say, I am done, Shayna. I was going to pass it back to you.
Well, I think it's a wonderful explanation, right? The one thing, Laura, I did want to ask, and it's kind of come up, but is there a certain minimum number of states for a compact to then start to establish these things?
Yes. For the AADB compact, we have to have 5 states.
Okay. All right. That's good to know. So, but well on our way. I see Kimber's answering questions in the chat that also lead to these answers. So Laura, thank you so much for telling us about the fees. Now, Heather Hardy, I'm gonna come to you because Laura's mentioned this commissioner. I think Leanne also mentioned the commissioner. So can you tell us, outside of our fantasy football leagues, who is this said commissioner for both organizations?
You're right, Shayna, because in my house, my husband is the commissioner of our fantasy football league. So, so thank you. So good evening. Thank you all for being here. Like Shayna said, my name is Heather Hardy. I'm the immediate past president to the Arizona State Dental Board. And I'd like to look at the representation of these member states to these commissions. And they are called commissioners. So if we look at Section 7, letter B, number 1, under the CSG, each participating state shall have and be limited to 1 commissioner. So that's going to be selected by that state's participating state's state licensing authority. And if the state has more than 1, that would mean a dental board and a hygiene board, then they will be selected collectively by the state licensing authority, but still just equaling that 1 commissioner. Going down to number 4, the commission, at that point, we have our state representative on the commission, but CSG may recommend to the state licensing authority or authorities, as applicable, removal or suspension of an individual as the state's commissioner. So I found a bit of a throwback picture that Stephanie's going to put up for us. So I saw this. Patrick reminds me from my children's SpongeBob days or my husband's current SpongeBob days, either one. But it speaks truth. What about us? What about us for dental hygienists? What does this mean to us? Who do we think will be our state's representative? We don't know, but will it be the dental hygienist? Odds are no. Dental hygiene is at serious risk to have lack of representation and be under the authority of bylaws and rules that have had no input from the dental hygiene community. History has shown us, most of us remember and know, that the dental community and hygiene community do not always see eye to eye on the progression of practice for dental hygienists. And according to line 333, that number 4 that we already saw, the commission may recommend to a state licensing authority or authorities, as applicable, removal or suspension of an individual as the state's commissioner. So when that state does send their representative, that person can be asked to be removed. I find that very concerning. It's been said that the state's appointed representation will probably be an executive director of state boards, or maybe the legal counsel for the state boards. But the truth of the matter is we just don't know. What we do know is it will only be one commissioner. So now if we look at the AADB compact, it will give 2 commission members. And for member states with those 2 separate boards, one dental, one dental hygiene, they will each get 1 commissioner. Both of these compacts, among other powers, they will have the authority to enact, adopt bylaws and rules. This is important for us to have representation. Dental hygiene has had trailblazers to pave the way for where our profession is now. We want to continue to retain and to move forward. Look at where we're at in Arizona, where I'm at, we're able to give Botox and fillers. That's one of our newer things. So very exciting for that advancement. Advancements in our career has only been achieved through that representation of like-minded people. And for dental hygiene, those people are typically dental hygienists. Any profession without specific representation is at risk for unwarranted changes or lack of advancements to that profession. And according to the compacts, only the AADB compact gives dental hygiene equal representation. I'm choosing to not listen to opinions or speculations. I'm choosing to read what is written and pay attention to only the facts. So that is my biggest concern and why I choose the AADB compact over the CSG. One of the reasons, just my reason. I agree with everything else everybody else has said as well, of course.
Heather, I do have one question, and I know somebody had put in their questions to be asked tonight was, to explain how the compact representation would be. And I think you did that very clearly and understood exactly those roles of what the AADB is offering for that representation. I do want to ask this one question though that came in, and you being from Arizona, I thought this was a good one for you. And the question was, why would our state need this being the compact, when we have the easiest licensure by credentials in the country? And thank you, Lois, for submitting that question. Heather, do you want to answer that?
Of course, Lois, thank you. I don't know if you're in Arizona, but I sure feel that same way about Arizona. So if you're not in Arizona, then we're also one of the easiest states to gain licensure. But we're talking about, for your question, what it implies, and what I'm talking about, that's for people to enter our state. Not as easy for us in Arizona or where you're from to move to other states. So being a member of the compact, 2 things: it would help the people in your state to move to other states that are members of the compact. Also, and more importantly, legislation may pass a compact without board input and bypass any of the legislation you have set up to be entered into your state. All they need is someone to approach a legislator and start moving that process forward. So it's still important to know which compact benefits your profession and respective states the most, and be proactive before something passes that's not wanted. It's very hard to undo that.
And I think that's true. And I think, though, Lois is from Texas, and multiple dental hygiene programs and all of their dental schools give the ADEX exam. So the portability with that ADEX exam is established for the students of today taking that exam. But it's that second part, Heather, that really highlights that if you aren't taking action as a board member, it might get to legislation before you can even react. So that's a great point.
And it's valid. It happened in Arizona when I was sitting on the board, that something went through legislation and we didn't even know it was coming. And then it was too late. We couldn't do anything about it to stop it. So. Well,
Heather, excellent job. Thank you so much. Dr. Champagne, I know you've got some some things to discuss. Oh, wait, I want to skip something, Heather. You've got a slide next up that you wanted to tag on with Carrie and really discuss.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, this next slide is actually a conversation that I took pictures of. I couldn't figure out how to screenshot quickly enough, so I actually took a picture with my phone. But one thing I wanted to make sure that I understood was the CSG's intentions surrounding the commission. And as you can see, I asked a couple of questions in the chat feature of the ADHA webinar that took place last week. And if you notice, I didn't get them all answered. There was, I noticed, a lot of vague or misstatements in that presentation. And I think, Guy, you might be a good person to clear up a few of those for us. The CSG says that they offer the AADB many opportunities to have input on their compact. Can you talk a little bit about this?
Yeah, Carrie, thank you. I'll be happy to. I guess I failed to introduce myself. I'm Guy Champagne. I'm been involved in licensure testing for over 40 years. That's why every time you see my name, it says former or senior. I don't know which is worse, but I guess I'm at that stage where everything is in the past. So that question is about the past, so let me answer it. So the AADB has made assertions that not AADB, Council of State Government has made assertions that the AADB wasn't interested in the compact, ignored the compact, didn't want to give input in the compact, didn't want to be at the table. Well, that's quite frankly factually incorrect. It's misleading, and I think there are other things about this compact, at least the way they explained it, that are misleading. But I've seen the communication from the president of the AADB before the compact process even began to the council and state governments saying that they wanted to participate. They were looking forward to dialoguing on the compact and got no response. What AADB did do, however, was fail to endorse the grant that ADA and ADHA be the partner. If you saw the slide that Pat presented, the other healthcare compacts, the partner in development was the Federation of the Regulatory Boards, whether the Federation of State Dental Board, State Medical Boards, whether it's the National Council of Boards of Nursing, the Federation of Physical Therapy Boards, etc. Why? Because of their statutory mandate to protect the public. So as Leanne referred to, it wasn't portability at all costs. It was portability with public protection. It was using the highest common standards. AADB did point out some of the deficiencies. The council and state governments did respond to the AADB at one point, saying they've selected the 5 dental boards that they wanted to participate. North Carolina, Louisiana, and Arizona, for example, one of those. They're listed on their website, but the inference is they were there, they agree, and they developed this product. Well, they were there, but they didn't agree. And I can tell you that the representatives from those 3 states that I mentioned were at the AADB annual meeting. They said that publicly. In fact, all 3 were drafters of the AADB compact that you're taking a look at tonight, and hopefully we'll examine in the future. But I think there's a bigger question. Let's say the council and state governments, for sake of argument, everything they said about the AADB's analysis, participation was accurate, and they've recognized the deficiencies now. Why is it too late to correct it? When is it ever too late to correct an issue? All of us on state dental boards deal with statutes. They get amended all the time as we need change. The difference is a compact is a common statute among a large number of states. So in medicine and nursing, there are 41 participating states in both of those compacts. It would take 41 state legislators to change something. Now is the time. There are only 3 states that have passed this. Asking those 3 states to consider an amendment to improve the public safety factors that were so powerfully and compellingly presented tonight. I've got to say that the panelists did an outstanding job illustrating not just the public protection issues, which are paramount for all of us from our background, but also the unique and ominous threats to dental hygiene as a profession, with alternative potentials for accreditation and for not being at the table when the rules are being passed to give input and not have equal representation. There's an equal number of licensees. It should be obvious to anyone. There's the same number of dental hygiene licensees nationally as there are dentists. That participation should be equivalent. But if this gets passed by 41 states, this is permanent. There will be no examination, just any process. Any accrediting entity that the Department of Education at their largest decides to recognize will be there. Every state will have to underwrite the costs of this new government agency. And it will be almost impossible to change. So I think that what the presenter so compellingly did tonight was tell you and point out, yes, the deficiencies are there. They're critical. We pointed it out to the Council on State Governments, by the way. There was a panel of 5 of us from CWC that met directly with them and pointed out the issues that many of the issues you saw tonight. They basically said it can't be changed. This is what the ADA wanted, as referred to earlier. Their model was the cosmetology compact. Why is that significant? Had they patterned it after medicine and nursing using the highest common denominators, 50 states wouldn't have to change anything they're doing. 50 licensing jurisdictions would be doing exactly what they're doing now with no changes. With the CSG compact, 50 jurisdictions have to change what they're doing. Any one state that is the licensing state dictates the licensing threshold for every other state. So all 50 states get to weigh in, and each one dictates to the other. That's a significant danger, I think, that all of us understand, where we should be using the highest common standard and allow dental boards to use their resources to scrutinize the other licensees that Leanne referred to that wouldn't qualify for the compact. You should know that in medicine and nursing, only about 80% of practitioners qualify for the compact licensure. So thank you for allowing me to give my little analysis, and I really want to congratulate the panelists. You did an outstanding job.
Guy, did you cover the slide, the requirements? Within what you just said?
Yeah, I think that I did, generally I can talk about the individual things. I think it's important that the CSG compact is unique in healthcare, at least in medicine and nursing. Medicine requires you get a license in every state, but you get it expedited. So they've cleared the original source verification in your background, you get your license. Nursing also has what they call a multi-state license, but it is a license in every compact state. It's not a privilege. So the dental board actually administers both those licenses. So in medicine, it's directly given by the medical board, and your home state, your primary state of residence is what it's called in the nursing compact, gives you your multi-state license if you qualify. But of course, the qualifications are uniform. But either way, you do get a license. So as Leanne referred to, the state board can take direct action against you if necessary. The third bullet is hand stills testing required by an independent third party. Obviously, in the AADB compact, like medicine and nursing, there is a uniform standard. In CSG, there's no standard at all. There's no testing required. I mean, it's not just hand skills. There are no testing required. You can have any process that does this. And is CODA graduation exclusive? Yes, in the AADB compact. No, in the Council of State Governments compact, because any accrediting entity they go in the future would be recognized automatically, just like any process would be automatically. Why is that significant? The CSG says they want a dynamic thing to handle anything that's in the future, but the fact is we don't know what that is. It's unknown. The AADB compact, like medicine and nursing, gives a uniform set of standards that everyone has to meet. If things change dramatically in the future, what happens? The compact in medicine and nursing goes away and they will develop a new one. With this one, this compact lives on no matter what changes happen. That compact stays unless each jurisdiction either withdraws or everyone accepts the same amendments and statutorily pass it, which is highly unlikely.
Well, Guy, you've left Kimber with about 3 minutes to give us our closing wrap up. Kimber, I know you've got some, as Pat had said earlier, a call to action, right? As far as, okay, we've received this information. If you haven't been watching the Q&A, please open that up and you can see the questions that have been submitted. Kimber has been typing her little fingers off to get all these answers out so quickly. So
And I'm still at it.
Holy moly, I'm watching you type and it's crazy. So please, if you haven't read the Q&A, go ahead and look through that for some great questions that have been submitted. But Kimber, can you go ahead and take us in closing here through how to get involved, what we provided for them, what AADB is providing for them to help support the process?
Sure, Shana, thank you so much. And again, thank all of you for your time tonight. We want to be respectful of that. You're all amazing in your own world and your own states, and we appreciate the questions, even those that are challenging. The compacts are new. I'll just speak for myself. When I first started this process, I'm like, what in the world is anybody talking about? You know, we live in a very tight culture in this part of our profession. So, you know, number one here outlines how can you get involved? I have worked with many of you as examiners, some of them on our own state or our own board of directors. Get involved with your state association. Talk to your leaders. Those of you I know, I have been for years involved in organized hygiene. Get involved with them. Ask them if they're aware of what's going on. What have they heard from the ADHA? Interact with them. Let them know some of the information and the differences we've highlighted tonight. It can be very impactful. I'll just prop up Carrie Friel right now. She's been very proactive in the state of Rhode Island, as has our own board member, Kathy Gazzola. Interact with them, get involved. Same thing with Heather Hardy. I could name several others, but find out what they know. Educate them. Use the information that we provide you tonight and that is available on the AADB Compact website. I think Stephanie's going to bring that slide up here in a minute. There's a wealth of knowledge and information there. There are fact sheets. There are Q&As for those of you or people you interact with that don't have a clue what any of this means or the impact that it can have. One of the most compelling things Dr. Champagne said to me tonight, and I grew up in a dental family. I now wear a hat that represents 140 years of dental regulatory history in our profession. I am passionate about that. I don't want to see us go from a true profession to an occupation. And not that we don't value our occupations. I am in the middle of a move. I've had occupational contractors at my house all week. So it is a very important part of this process, but get involved, reach out to your local components and let them know what is happening and what's going on. If you have any questions, Stephanie Beeler has done an amazing job with this website. Reach out to us, reach out to me individually, and we'll be happy to answer your question, because you all in your states are going to be our warriors. You're going to be our folks that answer these questions. And I have, as Shana indicated, I've been answering those vigorously in the chat tonight. They're all great questions. And we want to be sure you're armed with the information you need to go interact with those individuals in your state who are stakeholders in this process. Because one of the things I want to make clear, and I'm sure it has been, and I apologize if I was a bit distracted, but the languages and the efforts by CSG are bypassing our state dental boards. They're bypassing the known stakeholders in this process, and going directly to legislators on behalf of the military. So it is that intervention and arming your legislative representative with the knowledge they need to know what's coming is also a huge additional step you can take. You all have state representatives for the county or the location you live in as voters. Reach out to them, let them know what's happening, or work in conjunction with your association and make that happen. It's very powerful. We're active in multiple states right now, and we've seen the results of those efforts. So please engage with those entities that are available to you. And if you need help or assistance or guidance in doing that, please let us know, contact me directly, and we'll, excuse me, we'll be happy to support you in that.
Well, and Kimber, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I know we're over time, and I'm speaking quickly, but I've yet to meet state board that is 100% in favor of the alternative compact. So contact those members as well. Many of them, depending on the state and whether it's an umbrella agency setup or not, have the ability to interact with their legislators. I know many of the executive directors are active on their Capitol Hills. So get in touch. If you're closer to your state board member, get in touch with them as well. So these are all ways you can get involved and get active. And when in doubt, reach out to us at AADB and we'll be happy to assist you.
Yes, and Kimber herself has a lot of resources to provide you. Those highlighted documents you saw this evening are all part of it. I would like to ask, if you're still on the call, to stay on the call. We do have a survey as soon as we say goodnight that we would love to get your feedback on. We appreciate your presence here tonight. Again, we're here to support you. Please let us know how we can do so. Thank you all for coming. Panelists, oh my gosh, thank you for all the work you put into this. And with that,
Yes.
I don't want anybody else to leave. I would like to see these survey results. So Kimber and Dr. Champagne, Carrie Friel, Pat Connolly-Atkins, who am I leaving out? Leanne Haney, Heather Hardy, Laura Rochelle, Christy Jo Fogarty. Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Good night.